Can you imagine one card causing you to add more time to an event?
Are you saying that's not good?
It's like we just came from a 2,600 person Grand Prix. You really want to add 5 minutes to each round? Oh yeah, round day 2 will start on Monday morning. Yeah.
Well, as we're going to cut over the AJ Sacher versus Barrett Koreger very, very quickly for you guys, but just one quick follow-up question. Do you think the Sensei's Dividing Top was a mistake, in the same vein that maybe Skull Clamp was a mistake?
Yes.
Just a quick hitter.
Yeah, I mean, you know it's a mistake. Like, they might not want to, they don't like using the word mistake very often because, you know, just like people don't want to say, I'm 100% certain. But the fact is, they banned that card because it was unfun to play against and it dragged out matches. Anytime they ban a card because it drags out a match, not because it's overly powerful, that has to be a mistake.
Well, fair enough. You stand firm.
I stand firm.
And now what we have in front of us, my friends, is we're moving on to round 5 here of the Legacy Tournament. We have Barrett Koreger on the right, Las Vegas native. He has some SCG Open Series top 8s with Delver back in the old standard format. Loved a blue-white Delver deck. And we have the blue-haired monster and AJ Sacher on the left playing, you guessed it, blue-white control. But what kind of blue-white control is it? It's not Miracles. It's not Stoneblade. I don't know what you want to call it.
It is. It's similar to. It's very old school. It's basically a mono blue deck that's just splashing white for swords and 2 copies of Lingering Souls and a Sunscape Familiar and a Supreme Verdict. He plays 4 Snapcaster Mages. That's the only creature in the deck, and 4 copies of Sapphire Medallion, which is very old school because you can go turn 2 Sapphire Medallion, turn 3 Intuition, Accumulated Knowledge, which is, you know, very old school play, but a very good card advantage spell, especially when you have Snapcaster Mage. So
that is adorable.
It is pretty adorable, yes. But he's got 4 copies of Jason Mind Sculptor, which again, turn 2 Sapphire Medallion can lead to a turn 3 Jason Mind Sculptor. So I don't know. It's unlike a lot of decks that we see in Legacy, but certainly he has a lot of. He looks to be well suited against a combo deck like Show and Tell because of just the sheer amount of permission that he has. He even has hard counterspell, like literally the card counterspell in his deck. So looks like a pretty straightforward deck. A lot of card drawing. Doing well so far. I believe he's 4-0.
I believe, yeah, he is. I believe he is 4-0 as well. We'll get confirmation on these 2 players' records, but you're going to see AJ sacrifice a Flooded Strand here. He's going to go down to 19. Barrett on his turn 1 played Tropical Island and a Ponder. For you guys wondering at home, Barrett is playing Rug Delver. As far as any spice in this deck list, you guys, I'm sure, are all intimately familiar with Rug Delver at this point. He has 3 Stifle in his main deck. That number varies from 0 to 4, depending on the player and how they want to go about things. 2 copies of Fire Ice, 2 copies of Spell Snare, 3 copies of Spell Pierce, and 1 Thought Scour. Of course, 4 Delvers, 4 Tarmogoyfs, and 4 Nimble Mongoose. And he only has 3 Forcibles, where you normally see a lot of these decks play 4. So nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary here. No Scavenging Ooze, no Green Sun Zenith, none of that stuff. So pretty straightforward. We'll see if AJ is going to be able to play around those Stifles, if he knows Barrett has them or not, but he did sacrifice Flooded Strand right away and get a Tundra. So he's opening himself up to Wasteland. He was playing around Stifle, as you're going to see a Nimble Mongoose here from Barrett.
And that's a huge card because AJ really doesn't have many answers to Nimble Mongoose. He has 1 Supreme Verdict main deck. He can try to chump block, but again, chump blocking is usually not an effective plan against a deck with Lightning Bolts and Fire and Ice. So Nimble Mongoose can easily go all the way for Barrett in this matchup. So and you can see AJ knows that, and he's trying to attempt to force a will right here.
AJ is going to attempt to force a will this from Barrett. You see Barrett does have a Daze in his hand. You know, had he led with a Wasteland on that, had he led with a Wasteland there, and you know AJ is going to float the mana there. If he led with a Wasteland on the Tundra, you know, then he could have cast Nimble Mongoose, Daze the Force of Will, and move on there. But instead, AJ does float the mana. Can't get dazed, and we're moving along.
And I think, you know, Barrett realized that, but, you know, still, you know, not the worst shape. You know, he did manage to Wasteland AJ. But again, considering how important Nimble Mongoose is in this matchup, I think he's probably kicking himself right now.
Yeah. You do see AJ sacrifice a Flooded Strand right away again. Does get another Tundra here. Wants to avoid those Stifles from Rug Delver. We'll see if he has a play on this turn, if he's just going to pass back. And he is just going to pass back. So you see, he's very cognizant of the fact that Stifle is in Barrett's deck.
And I got to say, it's interesting that AJ's continues to go for the Tundras here. Oh, it looks like he has an Underground. I thought he had a Tundra in his hand, so it looks like he has an Underground Sea. So, yep, wants to make sure he has access to Swords to Plowshares if it's needed, or the front side of Lingering Souls. Ooh, and AJ draws the, I don't want to say the signature card of his deck, but he draws a Sapphire Medallion, which is pretty huge. But again, might not want to try to cast it this turn for fear of daze, but again, he has Counterspell in his hand, but you know, he's pretty light on mana, so it's not going to get any better for him later on. But again, I think Medallion is just so huge out of AJ's deck. It makes his deck run so much better. So he might have wanted to wait a turn. I think if AJ had another land in his hand, he would have been willing to wait a turn. But I think he wants to just go for it.
We got a reader here on the Sapphire Medallion, so we're going to bring it up on the screen for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
This is the card made you a lot of money in Boston.
Yes, yes.
2005, I was there.
Oh, I love that deck.
Blue-white Snap Desire.
Snapcaster. Yeah, it's not Snapcaster. The actual Snap.
Yeah.
The card Snap.
That's right. Your blue spells do cost one less. That was one heck of a combo deck.
Yeah, that was a great combo deck.
That was a really, really good deck. I think that's like the last time that Mind's Desire was legal.
Yeah.
I think maybe it had to go away after that.
So yeah, Barrett ends up using the Daze on the Sapphire Medallion, which is unfortunate for AJ because again, AJ's a little land light right now, only has 2 mana, and really needed that Medallion to resolve to start get going with some of his intuitions and AKs. But looks like he drew a Brainstorm, which is pretty good.
His invitational card.
His invitational card, yes.
That's actually a picture of AJ on the on the picture. That's why his hair is blue now.
AJ wondering if he wants to main phase Brainstorm. Yep.
This probably
big for land.
This probably pains him actually.
Yeah.
You know, Brainstorm casting it this early in a game. Normally the last card AJ ever wants to cast, but it doesn't want to hit a land drop.
Honestly, if you're not familiar with what Cedric's talking about, AJ goes on hour-long rants about how to play Brainstorm, which are quite annoying to listen to. So,
but educational.
I guess they're educational. Yeah,
but educational. You know,
literally, every Tuesday at 8 o'clock, if you tune into his stream, he'll be standing shirtless in front of his computer ranting about how to cast Brainstorm correctly.
I think you're confusing him with Travis.
Oh, am I?
As far as shirts are concerned, but that's easy to do.
Either way, he is ranting for hours. Just watches countless videos of people casting Brainstorms in matches and just degrades them. Oh, what an idiot.
You see AJ brainstorming now, setting everything up. He does have lands, fetch land, rearranging everything. You know, I wouldn't be caught dead casting a Brainstorm, but if I did have to ask someone how to do it, I would turn to him.
Yeah. He certainly put a lot of thought into it, that's for sure. So, looks like Snapcaster might be going to the top of the library.
Along with a Flooded Strand.
Interesting that he would put the Snapcaster on top, because that means he basically will miss his land drop on on the following turn.
Yeah.
Which it's not exactly control on control, but basically, you want to hit your land drop every single turn with this deck.
Maybe you just don't get how to brainstorm.
That's true. I do not know how to brainstorm.
That?
I think counterspelling the Brainstorm here is pretty good.
Yeah, is this worth fighting over? That's certainly a good question.
I think it's reasonable because, again, Barrett doesn't have many cards that you care about. Nimble Mongoose. I think four Nimble Mongoose are the cards that you care about probably the most.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it looks like Barrett's got just a handful of Lightning Bolt, Fire Ice, Force of Will, and then one blue card, and a Stifle.
Yep. Which AJ has done a very nice job of playing around so far with his main phase fetching, so he can't be caught off guard by that. Again, Barrett does have 3 Stifles in his deck list. Rug decks vary from 4 to 0, depending on the player. And AJ going to untap, he's going to draw. You see Snapcaster Mage, and he does just pass the turn. I mean, he set things up this way on purpose. So
yeah, and again, maybe he just didn't care about missing a land drop for the turn. Looks like Barrett's hand, again, no threats. And again, his deck is threat light. He had a chance to resolve a Nimble Mongoose, but because of a little bit poor sequencing, he wasn't able to get it to resolve. So now he's basically in, a mode where he's hoping to draw something later in the game. But this heavily favors AJ right now because AJ has cards like Lingering Souls, Intuition for AK, so he just has a lot more play than Barrett does. So AJ can just pull the trigger on the Intuition right here knowing that Barrett doesn't have many counter spells in his deck. But I think the fact that AJ knows he has a land on top of his deck, he might have wanted to wait a turn just to play around Daze, a second Daze rather, but decides to just go for it, which again, I think it's reasonable knowing that AJ knows Rug Delver pretty well, knows that they don't have many counter spells. So basically he's going to 2-for-1 Barrett here, which is great because this is not what the Rug Delver wants to be doing. Rug Delver wants to be using its Force of Wills to like counter a key combo card, you know?
Yeah.
So this is actually a really bad situation for Barrett.
So you see AJ intuitioning here, and Barrett's going to use Force of Will, removing Stifle. AJ's going to Force of Will back, and you can just see, like, you know, he's kind of leading him into these plays. This is definitely what AJ, I think, wants to happen here.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like AJ has the control over what's going on in this game, and he's just setting up everything the way that he wants to. He's going to search for some copies of Accumulated Knowledge here. 3 of them to be exact. We're going to bring AK up on the screen for you. Barrett's taking a look. We'll let you guys do that as well. It is pretty old. It was the best card drawing engine back in the day.
Nothing feels better than casting Intuition for 3 Accumulated Knowledge. Bringing back memories.
Yeah, look at the DCI one too.
Oh, look at that.
F&M. That's an F&M promo. That's a real card that should be promoed.
Look at it. It's just 2 people going over a map.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
They're accumulating knowledge.
Yeah. That's the best artwork you could come up with for the name Accumulated Knowledge.
They are accumulating knowledge. I think that artwork is nice.
Yeah, it's like 2 people planning a trip to like Vermont or something.
You see AJ is going to cast Accumulated Knowledge.
Ooh.
The ice is going to resolve. Barrett's going to draw a card.
Looks like a Lingering Souls and an Island and the Sapphire Medallion, which is likely going to see play this turn. And now we're going to start seeing some action.
That's right.
Snapcaster Mage is now 1 mana.
Whew. Do you hear that? That's the sound of Magic Online accounts opening everywhere.
Yes.
Speculating on Sapphire Medallions right now.
Sapphire Medallion went from 50 cents to $3 in the past 15 minutes.
And there's a Nimble Mongoose here from Barrett. So the real threat here from Barrett's deck is online now. But AJ does have a Lingering Souls, and you do see a repeal being drawn for AJ. Is there any card he doesn't have in this deck?
He's going deep. He's going deep. He's going deep with these cards.
There's a Lingering Souls here.
The problem is, though, is that Barrett does have a Fire and Ice. Oh, and
he's going to daze the second half of that.
So, yeah, Barrett has a Fire and Ice. So, again...
Does he have another Fire and Ice? Because he already cast 1.
Oh, that's right. But he has a Lightning Bolt, so there's no way... AJ is going to be basically only going to be able to chump block for a turn at best. But it just shows you how good Nimble Mongoose is against AJ's deck. AJ's, you know, he looked like things were going really well for him, but, you know, he's at the point where he basically needs to draw a Jace, and he has 1 Supreme Verdict that can actually kill the Nimble Mongoose, but, you know, still in pretty good shape. Not going to say he's in bad shape because, you know, Nimble Mongoose is still just a 3/3, but still a very good card. But I think Barrett's just behind on cards, way behind on cards right now. So and mana.
Truthfully, I still think things are going just fine for AJ. He can use his life total as a resource now. Yes, the Rug deck does have Reach and Lightning Bolts, and we know that Barrett has 2, where AJ may not. But, you know, he can start clocking his opponent. You know that he does have that Snapcaster Mage in his hand as well, so he can bring back the old Accumulated Knowledge there.
Yeah, and I definitely think AJ still has the advantage. It's just that things got a little more difficult for him because, again, like I said, AJ doesn't have a good answer to Nimble Mongoose, and so it could get to the point where AJ's life total gets just too precariously low, where a couple of Lightning Bolts are able to just finish it off.
Take a look at that 1 mana Snapcaster Mage. Isn't that beautiful?
I think Wizards wasn't planning. Wizards was not planning on Snapcaster costing only 1 mana, so they might be thinking bannings right now because of Sapphire Medallion.
So you're saying sell? You're saying sell?
Sell them, yeah.
Snapcaster Mage now.
Sell all your Snapcaster Mages, yeah. So here's the Sapphire. He's got Sunscape Familiar, which could actually block Nimble Mongoose.
And buy on Sunscape Familiar.
Yeah,
a card that we are almost certainly going to bring up. We're going to blow the dust off of it, but then we're going to bring it up on screen for you. It feels like AJ lost a bet or something with this.
Yeah, I feel like Jerry just tricked AJ. But Hey, he's 4-0.
The 3-1, 3-1. These players are 3-1. We got confirmation.
Speaking of weird pictures, Sunscape Familiar, I never quite understood this picture because it's just a castle.
Absolutely,
like,
it is.
What is Sunscape
there's some
Familiar?
There's some spirits in there, but it's creature type wall.
I don't know. It just looks like medieval times. Like it just looks like a random castle.
Well, wasn't that what Plane Shift was? Medieval times?
Yeah, but
I didn't read the book.
I don't know what's Sunscape Familiar. Like all the other familiars were like birds or guys. This is literally a castle. I don't quite get. And did he lightning bolt the Sunscape Familiar?
Yeah, get out the way.
Oh, I probably would have saved the bolt for just the face. I don't think Sunscape Familiar is going to be blocking. If it does, who cares? Blocks for a turn. You're just trading 3 damage for 3 damage.
Some people don't know. Barrett may not know what the Sunscape Familiar is capable of.
Yeah, but the issue is that what if AJ decides to double block the Nibble Mongoose at a certain point with the Lingering Souls token and a Snapcaster Mage?
He's got another Lightning Bolt ready.
I know, but it's going to be a lot harder to resolve 1 Lightning Bolt through a field of counterspells than it would be 2. That's my only point.
All right, that's completely fair.
I think Barrett has to kind of realize that, okay, my best shot of winning this game is just trying to ride this Nibble Mongoose to victory. So hopefully that'll happen.
The race is on here.
But one funny thing is that AJ can actually repeal his Snapcaster Mage and get such value.
Yeah, the king of value.
He just loves value, this guy.
AJ has never had interest in killing his opponent quickly.
No.
He wants to put them into submission. As you see him play a Flooded Strand, and he is just going to pass the turn back. You see his hand of repeal and 2 lands.
AJ prefers to beat his opponents in the most embarrassing fashion possible.
Yeah, just grind him down.
Just grind them out.
He was a big fan of the combo of Baleful Strix Unearth. Mm-hmm. You can get that back. You're just flooded in cards then. It's unbelievable. Or the Unearth Snapcaster Mage combo. Also, he was a big fan of. As you see, Barrett is beginning to draw quite a few lands here.
AJ is one of the few people that doesn't throw out those value pack envelopes you get in the mail. He saves them. Oh, loves to clip coupons.
Draws a Swords of Plowshares.
So again, AJ's at the point now where he has to start worrying about.
I think blocking is in consideration now.
Yeah, I mean, he is the So you can see.
Yeah, those are the breaks if I've ever seen them.
So we could just see. I actually don't mind attacking with the other Lingering Souls token and just blocking them amongst the Snapcaster and then repealing it. He has that line too.
Well, I think double blocking is better now, right? Because if he double blocks, Barrett fires off the Lightning Bolt, and you see him firing away right now here. He's going to repeal Snapcaster Mage, a little bit cheaper. Because of the Sunscape Familiar.
And Barrett just has a...
Excuse me, because of the Sapphire Medallion, I apologize. AJ going to draw his card. See if AJ's going to pull the trigger right now as well on, maybe flashing back accumulated knowledge. You know what you can also do? You can Snapcaster Mage, target the repeal, block, and then bounce it back.
Cedric, that's too much value. That is way too much value. Although, like we said, if anyone likes value, it's AJ Sacher.
Oh, there it is.
Let's see it. Oh, please
do it. He just repeals it just right now.
I hope he really does do it. Oh, no, it looks like an Intuition.
Just draw 2 cards. Intuition and Swords of Plowshares. He is having the time of his life. You can just tell.
He loves it. He's really regretting not casting Repeal on his Snapcaster. But he has 4 Snapcasters in his deck. A Snapcaster is really incredible in this deck.
Yeah, it's really
good in this deck.
It really is.
This might be the best deck I've ever seen Snapcaster Mage featured.
The one thing about Legacy that's really kind of interesting to me is like Snapcaster Mage is just like when it was in Delver and Sander, it was just like every time your opponent drew a Snapcaster Mage, you just wanted to throw up because it was so good.
Yeah.
But somehow it's just not good enough in Legacy, even though like all the spells are better and ridiculously cheap. It's like, oh, there's no room for Snapcaster Mage here, and that never really made any sense to me.
Yeah. And it looked like Barrett held his Numa Mongoose back again. Basically telegraphing that he doesn't have a Lightning Bolt or Fire Ice, so AJ's a little safe now for a turn at least. But again, this is a situation where as soon as Barrett does attack, AJ's going to be able to read Barrett correctly and know that he probably drew a Lightning Bolt or a Fire Ice here.
Yeah, be working with quite a bit of information. There is a Lightning Bolt right now.
Interesting he decides to do it before. So I guess he basically just wants to see if AJ has a counterspell. But the thing is that if AJ has a counterspell, it's pretty bad for you no matter what. So I think I kind of don't mind just attacking with the Nimble Mongoose and hoping for the double block and just hoping the bolt resolves. Because the fact is that you're really not going to be in a good shape if AJ has any kind of counters anyway.
Sure.
You know, he's just getting too many cards right now. Looks like he's just going to cast Intuition. Not sure how many Forcibles he has left, but he can get some combination of counterspells if he wants.
Yeah, I think, let's see. What could AJ be intuitioning for here? Deep Analysis?
Probably he could just go for 3 Snapcasters, to be honest, and get that repeal. And get the cast Snapcaster, target repeal the other Snapcaster that you bolted. Oh my, the value.
Yeah.
Such value.
This is unbelievable.
I think he has 3 Snapcasters left in his deck. I'm not sure if he drew another one.
I don't think he's drawn another one yet.
Oh, look at AJ's just...
He's right in his comfort zone.
He is just...
He might as well be in bed with like 8 pillows.
He's actually salivating.
Yeah. Look what I'm going to do to you. My God in heaven. Look what's about to happen to you, Barrett Koreger.
Ladies and gentlemen, his hair is actually normally brown. It turned blue because of how excited he got.
Yeah. There's a 1-mana Snapcaster match.
I can't imagine it doesn't target repo.
Is this going to bite a counterspell here? I see Barrett fetching a little bit here. I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Oh, it looks like he's casting.
He's going to hardcast Force of Will.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to hardcast.
All the fun's over.
That is unfortunate.
But I mean, for Barrett, that's actually quite good because now there are no more Snapcaster mages to worry about.
Yeah.
So for him, that's actually fantastic. He's going to Sword to Plowshares, his own guide against some life.
And suddenly, AJ's again. You see the power of Nimble Mongoose in this matchup. AJ does not have any other gas. He's just got a bunch of land in his hand and a Sword to Plowshare, which can't target the Nimble Mongoose. So and there's a Supreme Verdict. So
he's playing how many of those again? Just
one, yeah.
Had it. That's what the kids say, right?
Had it.
Yep.
Still had all these. So again, I mean, that's fine, but I gotta say I'm not too happy if I'm AJ right now because his deck has been just giving him a lot of land. You know?
Yeah. Maybe you're gonna pass the turn back, ready to chump block here with that Lingering Souls token. Barrett gonna take a draw. And AJ, I actually like this play a lot by AJ because he can maybe catch a Tarmogoyf here with the Verdict. Or, maybe another Nimble Mongoose, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Barrett, Barrett's not going to be sure. You're probably not going to play around Wrath of God.
Yeah, I can't imagine a world where that would happen.
Given AJ's play this game, and the way he played the last turn particularly, like even if Barrett decides to not play a creature, AJ can still just leave a card, leave a token back, you know. Oh, and he drew a Colonnade, so he finally has a threat.
Oh, finally a way to win the game.
Yeah, a real threat. Old
Special Colonnade in the house. This is not modern, ladies and gentlemen. This is Legacy.
So I like the, I actually like holding the token back. You're basically trying to bait Barrett to commit another creature to the board.
And Wasteland's going to take care of that.
So AJ's going to have his work cut out for him yet again.
And is he going to commit? He does.
He does. He fell into AJ's Sacher's
trap. Yes, he
trap.
did. And he cannot.
And another Colonnade.
And another
Colonnade. Like a champ.
Yep.
Like a blue-haired champ.
That's right. Colonnade on the screen for you guys. Obviously sees a lot of play in those blue-white-red decks in Modern. Looking to finish off Barrett Koreger. Barrett's already drawn 2 of his Wastelands. Only has 2 left.
This might be a record for the number of times we have to put up cards so that people knew what they were.
Yeah, it's really close. It really is.
I mean, granted, a lot of people know what Celestial Colonnade is, but in Legacy,
I can't believe it either when he told me. Hiya! Sapphire Medallion doesn't even make that. It doesn't even make it cheap or anything. It's just full 5 mana in.
Sapphire Medallion has no impact on Celestial Colonnade.
And back you go. Hey, serves the win condition, dodges Lightning Bolt.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's it. Lands it is.
That is it.
AJ Sacher wins game 1 with his blue-white control deck. Over Barrett Koreger playing Rug Delver. That was pretty impressive stuff.
It was,
took him to the grindhouse.
It was a little bit, He definitely took him out to the woodshed for a while.
Yeah.
You know, after board, AJ's deck, I think, gets a little bit better because, again, he has cards like Supreme Verdict.
Well, how does one improve on perfection?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That game was yeah, quite. I don't know if I'd call that perfection, considering AJ drew a million cards and still almost lost. But it was interesting. And again, after board, AJ has he has Spell Pierce, which could come in. Vendilion Click, which again, he might want to just try to bring in more threats. I really like Supreme Verdict in this matchup because, again, Barrett's deck doesn't have many threats, and a card like Supreme Verdict, it guarantees to get rid of everything. You know, there's really nothing Barrett can do about it. Probably don't need all 4 Plowshares. Probably don't need the Sunscape Familiar. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what AJ boards out.
How dare you? How dare you sideboard out Sunscape Familiar?
Yeah.
After what it's done for you?
I know.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, I think you can probably safely board out a couple of Swords of Plowshares for a couple of Supreme Verdicts. And maybe.
I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to sideboard out Swords in this matchup.
Yeah, you don't want to lose to Goyfer.
Yeah, or Delver. You know,
yeah.
he does have 8 of his 12 threats can be killed with Swords of Plowshares. I know it looked awkward that game, but I think it's looked awkward because, simply put, Barrett didn't draw Delver of Secrets or Tarmogoyf. It looks a lot better if he does. He ended up having to just cast Swords of Plowshares with his own Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, it's tough because AJ just has AJ's deck's a lot of 4-ofs, and there's not a lot that he wants out, I think. So, maybe I can't imagine him boarding out the medallions.
Yeah, the cost reducers seem like they're so important to his deck.
Yeah, so honestly, it's not sure what his plan is going to be after board. Definitely think he wants to bring in the verdicts. Beyond that, though, not much. Like maybe Spell Pierce.
Yeah.
But again, I think the only card I know that AJ wants after board is Supreme Verdict.
Okay.
So.
Taking a look at Barrett's deck over here, obviously a much more traditional deck. He has 2 copies of Rough Tumble, not so much here. 2 copies of Ancient Grudge. I don't think Ancient Grudge is worth sideboarding in just to take care of those Sapphire Medallions. It just doesn't seem like it's really worth it. A copy of Sylvan Library, which I think he's going to want here so he can actually control his draws a little bit better. A copy of Gilded Drake, not for this matchup, of course. A copy of Flusterstorm, which can actually be okay. Kind of those intuitions, maybe you can catch an accumulated knowledge. 4 copies of Submerge, obviously not for this matchup. An additional Stifle, which AJ did a fantastic job of playing around in that first game, almost to the effect that if I'm Barrett, I might want to sideboard the 3 I have in my main deck out. It's pretty clear that he's playing around those, and he actually showed it to him by casting a Force while removing Stifle. An additional Force of Will in his sideboard, then 2 copies of Sulfur Elemental. Sulfur Elemental actually quite good here. Going to kill those Lingering Souls tokens and can't be countered by AJ. And AJ has such a permission-heavy deck. Well, of course, Swords of Plowshares can't catch it, but I think that Sulfur Elemental is almost certainly going to come in now.
Yeah, Sulfur Elemental seems like a really good card in this matchup. Because like you said, one of AJ's win conditions is that Lingering Soul. So Sulfur Elemental, at the very least, shuts that off and acts as just an uncounterable threat for Barrett. And again, you know, AJ only has 3 Supreme Verdicts. He has a lot of card drawing, so he can get there. But still, having a flash creature to cast after a Supreme Verdict can be spelled the difference between winning and losing, especially with the amount of burn in Barrett's deck.
And we do have a tweet here from Zippy300. Good Twitter name, by the way. I like that. Telling us that that Osip and I have had an awesome evaluation of AJ's deck. We appreciate the pun. Could be Luis's second.
Yeah, it might be
second
his
Twitter
second or
account.
third account.
His second or third Twitter account. But we appreciate a good pun every now and again. Luis, if you're watching at home, you can feel free to chime in. Show us what your puns are all about. And if you guys do want to interact with Osip and I here in the booth, feel free to tweet us at SCG Live. Hashtag your tweets with SCGVEGAS. We love interacting with you guys at home. We do appreciate you guys watching. Of course, our Star City Games Legacy Open here in Las Vegas. Round 5 of 8 today.
Is it 8?
It is 8. It is not 9. Round 5 of 8.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
So one more round before AJ wins. If AJ can win this round, the next round he could be a lock for top 8.
Yeah, he could. He very well could be. So, pretty good tournament so far. We've had some good matches on camera. Saw William Baby Huey Jensen a little bit earlier with a sneak and show deck. Brainstorm his way into a win. He is 5-0 now. He walks by with 5 fingers in the air, waving them around like he just doesn't care.
Of course, why wouldn't he be?
Yeah, that's right. And we got AJ, the blue-haired monster, playing ironically, a very blue-based control deck here with Brainstorms, Accumulated Knowledge, and Sapphire Medallions. So having a good time today here in Vegas, covering this Legacy tournament for you guys. See if Barrett Koreger can even things up here playing Rug Delver.
And, you know, again, if AJ is able to get his engine going with Sapphire Medallion, I'd say he's probably a little bit favored, but we saw how good Nimble Mongoose was.
Yeah,
so
it's just a hard, very hard.
I still think there's going to be a lot of pressure on AJ to draw that Supreme Verdict.
Both players are going to keep. Barrett is going to start with a Flooded Strand. We'll see if he's going to look for that Tropical Island or a Volcanic, and it's going to be a Tropical Island. And he's going to play some sort of one-drop here. As you do see, he already has his mana tap. They are just shortcutting, and it is going to be a Delver of Secrets. AJ is going to sacrifice his Misty Rainforest. We'll see if he searches for a non-basic or a basic, and he's going to search for a basic this time, which leads me to believe, Osip, that maybe last game he was trying to induce some Wastelands.
Possibly. I don't know. I mean, I think he maybe just wanted access to white mana. Not quite sure, but it looks like he's got part of his engine, so to speak, with the Sapphire Medallion. But Barrett's hand looks pretty good. He's a lot more threat heavy than he was last game,
yeah,
which is exactly where he wants to be in this matchup. You know,
well, we need to see if he has some lands here, because you see a Soulfire Elemental, you see a Spell Pierce in there on some other cards. He did miss with his Delver of Secrets trigger on his upkeep. So no Insectile Aberration just yet, but the big question here is, does he have a second land? As you see Nimble Mongoose here. And he does just pass the turn. You saw, of course, AJ sacrificing his Misty Rainforest on his turn right away, again to dodge Stifle. Makes you wonder if Barrett did sideboard those out, because AJ has been playing around them so much. But on AJ's second turn, he does draw a Flooded Strand. Yeah, it looks like he's going to play it.
That's a pretty risky keep for Barrett, because, you know, granted, he has, you know, a Delver of Secrets, but if the Delver of Secret flips, it means you're not drawing a land.
Yeah.
You know? Or God forbid it's a creature, and either way, you're going to be stuck on one mana. You know, again, you're not going to be able to get aggressive enough if AJ is going to start building up his board. You need to try to get really aggressive before he gets the Supreme Verdict. So Delver does slip, revealing a Brainstorm, which is probably the perfect, ideal card for Barrett right now.
Yeah, it's going to let him, you know, start to hit his land drops, you know, assuming that he does find a fetch land, doesn't get himself Brainstorm locked. But Insectile Aberration and no Mongoose are going to come across, providing a clock as Barrett's Brainstorm does resolve. You saw AJ on his turn resolve a Sapphire Medallion, so his cost reducer is in play. And you do see Barrett does have, the last card in his hand is an island. We're not sure if there are any fetch lands there or not, but there's also a Ponder there.
Yeah,
so he can clear away.
Yeah.
And start building towards the threshold for that Nimble Mongoose.
Yeah, so not bad for Barrett. Definitely a good draw, what he was hoping for. He has a Spell Snare and a Spell Pierce, but not the best counter spells.
Now, the big question here, of course, is does he want to leave those counter spells open, or does he just want to ponder and clear? Now, obviously, he's chosen to leave and represent, you know, a lot of different types of counter magic here by leaving that island up instead of pondering, maybe getting some information and clearing the top of his library.
Yeah, I think maybe he's just really afraid. I agree with you. I think Barrett's ideal line there was probably just to ponder and clear out and try to set up your draws for the next few turns. I mean, you're in pretty good shape to win with what you have in the board, and I don't think there's anything AJ can cast this turn that's too devastating, short of a Supreme Verdict, which you can't counter anyway. Jace would obviously be decent, but you can attack the Jace and kill it, even if he Fate Seals you. So probably would have just wanted to make sure I draw a land, because you have so many threats in your hand, and you have, again, Spell Snare is not it's a conditional counter spell, but it could stop a Snapcaster Mage or an Accumulated Knowledge. So I think Barrett might want to just ponder here and sort of try to draw more land, particularly a red source.
Well, the Knuckleheads come across, Insectile Aberration and Nimble Mongoose. It's going to knock AJ down to 9, and now Barrett has to decide what he wants to do this turn. You know, does he want to commit another threat to the board? Does he want to ponder? And you're going to see an intuition here from AJ with an island available due to the Sapphire Medallion.
Yeah, and AJ has the option of...
you're going to see a little battle here over Spell Pierces.
So, and it looks like it's going to resolve because all Barrett has is a Ponder and Stifle and a Spell Snare, which can't counter anything. So he could get 3 Supreme Verdicts.
Yep.
But, you know, again, might want to just try to get the AKs now.
Let's see what he searches for here.
Oh, interesting. So he goes for a Source of Plowshare and 2 Accumulated Knowledge, which, again, he's got 1 Accumulated Knowledge in his hand, so if Barrett does decide to give him a Source of Plowshare, he can still cast 1 of the Accumulated Knowledge for 3 and still deal with the Insectile Aberration. So.
And he was very sure with what he wanted to search for there.
Yeah.
He seemed very confident in wanting to search for Accumulated Knowledge Source of Plowshares, where he, as you said, he could have simply searched for 3 Supreme Verdicts and cast 1. Of course, it's going to cost 1 less because of the Sapphire Medallion, which is a neat little interaction there.
Yeah, and it's a little tricky here because Barrett does have a Spell Snare, so this can counter 1 of the Accumulated Knowledges.
Yep, it can also counter a Snapcaster Mage, what looks like AJ's leading off with here.
And I would have to imagine Barrett is likely going to Spell Snare this.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if he has. Okay, so AJ does have another Spell Pierce.
Okay.
But again, you can get the Plowshare now. You can deal with the Aberration.
And you can actually You can actually trade with the Nimble Mongoose now. Even though there are 5 cards now, or excuse me, 4 in Barrett's graveyard. So there is the opportunity for Barrett to, maybe draw into a Thought Scour.
Well, he has double Ponder.
Yeah, he does have double Ponder.
Ponder, dig for a Sackland, and suddenly Threshold is turned on. So
when you see AJ put the Snapcaster Mage in front of the Mongoose ready to block, I think we both know that Barrett's not going to let that happen.
Yeah, and the good thing though is that AJ can he can potentially draw 3 cards off of 1 Accumulated Knowledge and then 4, so he can draw 7 cards next turn for 2 mana.
Yeah.
Hit his fourth land, and he has a Hydroblast to sort of deal with maybe a Lightning Bolt or the Sulfur Elemental that we of course know is on top of Barrett's deck, but AJ's in decent shape despite being only at 9.
Yeah. And the interesting thing that's also going to happen here, maybe OSIP, is let's say that Barrett does get that up to a 3/3. Is he going to jump off of that Snapcaster Mage? Is he okay going down to 6? I think he's going to be blocking either way this turn.
I think he probably wants to block. But again, if he draws the repeal for the Snapcaster, that's pretty good because, again, he could still Intuition for Supreme Verdict. And in a situation like this where Barrett's just going to be loading guys onto the board, he just drew a Snapcaster, so likely going to draw 7 cards here, or at least 3.
Yeah, you're going to see an Accumulated Knowledge here from AJ. Going to draw 2 cards, Brainstorm and a Mystery card, which is Lingering Souls. And again, part of the reason that AJ didn't search for a Supreme Verdict and Intuition, something that I certainly overlooked, is that it's white, blue. He only has 1 source of white mana, so he actually couldn't cast Supreme Verdict.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Looks like he has a Colonnade now. So, might want to lead with the Underground here. Try to Brainstorm for another Source of Plowshare. So no, he's going to play the Colonnade.
I think he probably feels he needs to get the Supreme Verdict here.
Yeah, well, he can jump for 1 turn.
Yep.
Barrett likely will have a Threshold, likely to have Threshold this turn.
You're going to see a Ponder here from Barrett.
Wow, Wasteland, so
Wasteland's a huge
pretty
draw.
good draw. Gives him Threshold, keeps AJ off of double white. And he also has a Nimble Mongoose, which you can keep on top of his deck, so pretty good Ponder right there.
Still without red mana, of course, but still doing just fine. But I think Wasteland's a huge draw here. We'll see if he's actually going to take it or not. And it looks like he has thumbed it towards the top of his deck. Going to keep with the Ponder. He is going to draw the Wasteland here.
Yeah, and this is actually a great situation for Barrett because keeps AJ off of white. He still has the Stifle in case AJ draws a Sackland, so he can still keep him off white with the Sackland. So AJ is going to be going to 6 here. He does have a Lingering Souls, which could buy him a turn. But again, Barrett does have that Sulfur Elemental in his hand, which we were talking about could just kill those Lingering Souls tokens if he managed to get a red source in play.
And now you're going to see Barrett tap out on his turn. The shields are down for him. Going to cast a Sylvan Library and pass the turn back.
And this will allow him to dig a little bit more for that red source. But and AJ did, in fact, draw a Supreme Verdict. So because he tapped out, AJ can Brainstorm and try to get a Sackland and can resolve it right now.
So you are going to see a main phase Brainstorm here by AJ, looking for an additional white source,
and
finds
he
a
drew
Tundra.
So just in time. And now AJ is going to be in a pretty good spot because, again, he still has that other accumulating knowledge in his hand and can clear off the board here. Again, Barrett does have a Sylvan library, which is going to allow him to draw a couple more cards and smooth out his draws, but pretty big turn for AJ, getting rid of both the Tarmogoyf and the Mongoose.
So those guys are going to get cleared away. AJ sitting at 6 life. Going to pass the turn back to Barrett, and Barrett's going to have something pretty good this turn as you're going to see Sylvan Library happen, and Barrett just immediately knows that he's just going to draw those cards.
I'm sure what the holdup is.
Yeah, AJ stopped him very briefly here, and we'll see exactly what's going on here, and it looks like play has continued now. Barrett immediately knew that he wanted to clear the top of his library, because he knew those cards from putting him back from the brainstorm. Yeah. So he knew immediately, yeah, like, I'm going to pay the life, get these cards out of the way, and just get back to moving.
Looks like he still doesn't have a red source for the Sulfur Elemental, but he does have a Nimble Mongoose, so can still get throw out there. Looks like a Spell Snare, Tropical Island, Stifle, and Sulfur Elemental.
Yep.
AJ does still have the Lingering Souls, so he can choose to cast one side of Lingering Souls and still have Counterspell mana if he wants.
You see Barrett play a Tropical Island, plays that Nimble Mongoose, and does pass the turn back. AJ quickly untaps, draws an island, which we knew was there from the brainstorm. So let's see how he's going to go about taking this turn now. Lingering Soul's an easy place to start, but not sure if that's exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he's aware of the Self-Elemental in the list. I mean, I'm not sure how popular the card is.
You know, it hasn't been popular for a little while now because Lingering Souls has just kind of fallen out of favor. You know, with Jund and Bug being so popular, you know, Lingering Souls was hated out pretty well because of Engineered Plagues in a lot of sideboards. But, you know, it has died down quite a bit. But Sulfur Elemental wasn't really the card that people were playing to take care of it. Now, AJ is very, you know, well-versed in Legacy, so it wouldn't surprise me if he thinks about it a little bit. But with Barrett having no red mana right now as well,
yeah,
you know, I'd be a little bit surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, excuse me, if he does catch AJ off guard here.
And again, he's going to be looking at a lot of cards here, so good chance he'll get to the red source.
You see a Lightning Bolt, you see a Tarmogoyf, and what you don't see is a red source of mana.
I think he has. Did he have a Flood String?
So I don't believe so. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah,
Flood String. I apologize.
So, he'll be able to search for a tropical volcanic island.
Yep.
Because Sulfur Elemental has split second, AJ can't Hydroblast it, or at least he can't counter it with the Hydroblast, but he will be able to deal with it. So the other side of Lingering Souls could come into play next turn if he chooses. Or he might want to just say, I'm going to cast Snapcaster Mage and flashback Supreme Verdict.
Sure.
There's a couple of lines. Again, Barrett does have a Spell Snare, I believe, so it's going to be tough for AJ to resolve either the Snapcaster or the accumulated knowledge in his hand. Not sure what he wants to lead with.
So let's see.
Again, I think AJ should consider trying to cast accumulated knowledge here, or at least if AJ can try to resolve a Snapcaster here, he doesn't need to Hydroblast the Sulfur Elemental.
Yeah.
But again, we know that Barrett does in fact have a Spell Snare in his hand.
Yeah, he's been sitting with Lightning Bolt forever, and if you're AJ, you got to assume, yeah, he's got it. He having Lightning Bolt in his hand.
He has a counter spell too. Oh, he has a
Spell Pierce.
So even better. Able to cast Spell Pierce, and
he is doing his best to stay alive right now. Yeah. I'll tell you what.
Snapcaster likely going to target Supreme Verdict.
Yep. He's going to play his land. He's going to Supreme Verdict with his non-basic, so he can't get wastelanded out. And okay, so you're going to see a Stifle here.
Wow.
On the Snapcaster. Okay, so Barrett, one of Barrett's cards in his hand is a Stifle, so he's stifling enters the battlefield trigger on the Snapcaster Mage, which AJ thought was for sure going to resolve, and it doesn't. Stifle playing a huge role here.
Yeah, this is pretty devastating for AJ right here. So AJ still has some lines available to him. He could counterspell he could counterspell the Stifle, let Snapcaster resolve. Now he can rechange his target. And he could choose to target a plow. I'm not sure if he still has a plowshare in his graveyard or not.
This is pretty tough now.
I think AJ has to consider maybe just casting the accumulated knowledge and hoping to draw like a plowshare or something. He basically just needs another blocker and leave Hydroblast Man up to counter a lightning bolt.
The tough part here for AJ, obviously, he's hanging on by a thread here, trying to stay alive. The difficult thing for him, of course, is that that Sylvan Library is one of the things he's going to have to try to overcome now, and that's going to be really hard to do. Is you're going to see a main phase Hydroblast, and now you're going to see Lingering Souls get flashed back.
Fortunately, he's totally exposed to lightning bolt right now. He does have an accumulated knowledge in his hand, but
his hand right now it's a counterspell, not accumulated knowledge.
Oh, it's a counterspell.
Yeah, it's counterspell and Sapphire Medallion. So there's a lightning bolt and there's a concession. So Barrett Koreger is going to tie this match up. We have some cheering in the background for, I don't know why, but people are happy, so that's good. Hey, we're in Vegas. Why not be happy, right?
So AJ's deck's going to be hard pressed to try to win in less than 5 minutes.
Might be a little difficult.
Yeah.
Might be a little difficult.
Barrett's certainly capable of, Delver, Seekers, Tarmogoyf, Nimble Mongoose, they can end the games pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
AJ, again, you saw the power of Nimble Mongoose in this type of matchup, AJ just doesn't have any good ways to deal with it.
Yeah.
And Sulfur Elemental, like you said, was huge.
Maybe AJ considers a card like Phantasmal Image in the future. It's a one mana clone in his deck. He does a nice job of handling Nimble Mongoose because AJ is going to have Threshold in his deck, and it's something that that Barrett can't kill with Lightning Bolt. I know this is AJ's first run with this deck before. He said he brewed it up while he was at home over the course of the week and wanted to give it a try this weekend. And the ideas here, the deck actually looks okay, but certainly not perfectly refined yet, I don't think. As having a problem with Nimble Mongoose is definitely a hole in deck construction, I think, with how popular this deck is.
Yeah, I mean, AJ's deck could play like Delver Secrets or something if it wanted to, but again, definitely a major problem if you have no answer to Delver Secrets, considering how popular Rug generally is.
Yep. So we're going to play a third one. We've got about 3 minutes left here on the clock between Barrett Koreger and AJ Sacher. AJ Sacher on the left with blue-white control will be on the play, the king of value. Barrett Koreger with a more stock deck and Rug. Delver did take down game 2 there off the back of a timely Sylvan Library along with a Stifle and a Snapcaster Mage. And we will see if AJ is going to keep. Looks like he is.
I mean, 5 hits from a Celestial Colonnade will kill Barrett.
That's true.
The problem is that's not likely going to take less than 3 minutes.
Well, not with that attitude.
Yeah. So both players playing a little fast. AJ's hand definitely looks like the type of hand that says, I'm not losing this game with Force of Will and Double Supreme Verdict, but not so sure he can win it within 3 minutes,
We see a Delver of Secrets here to start here for Barrett.
He's got a... AJ also has a Lingering Souls, but again, with less than 3 minutes in the match, not sure AJ is actually going to be able to win this game in time. Whereas Barrett is doing everything he possibly can. But again, with 2 Supreme Verdicts, AJ might be able to just slow the game down enough so that it ends up in a draw. Which is unfortunate considering this is the second match in a row we've had on camera that has ended in a draw.
Well, you see these blue decks in Legacy, they take a little while to play because brainstorming is so difficult, searching with fetch lands, how you want to go about crafting a game plan. These things do take time, and AJ is a very experienced blue control player in Legacy with this type of deck and with brainstorms and stuff like that. But again, you have to be very, very fast with how you do play these decks. You can't be very methodical and expect to finish in time all of your rounds, especially when you're against another blue deck.
Yeah, and that's the thing about AJ's deck, is that it's just so threat light that there's just so many turns where you're going to be drawing a lot of cards, but because you're not putting any pressure on your opponent, you're giving him these more and more turns to just kind of grind their way into it. So.
Now you're going to see Lingering Souls here from AJ.
Interesting that AJ actually exposes himself to Wasteland. He could have played a Flooded Strand and just searched for an island and cast Lingering Souls that way.
Could be trying to induce.
It's possible. Although, again, he's going to be able to search for a Volcanic Island and cast Fire and Ice on the tokens and swing for 3. And again, AJ does have, I think, 3 Supreme Verdicts now, but, you know, Wasteland targeting Underground Sea is going to set him back another turn. So, interesting to see whether or not the Delver or the Insect or Aberration will actually be able to get there this game, because AJ only has 1 other land in his hand.
So you do see Fire Ice here, and AJ considering, do I want to force the will this removing a Supreme Verdict? I've got plenty of Supreme Verdicts, and it looks like he's going to choose to do that. Yeah, so he's going to take 1.
I think he kind of realizes how far behind he could end up being.
Now Wasteland's still going to be a thorn in his side.
Yeah, honestly, if he just sacks the, he only has 1 Plains in his deck, so.
AJ draws an Accumulated Knowledge for the turn. He's going to play this Flooded Strand. You see that the Lingering Souls tokens are holding off that Delver of Secrets. They're doing a fantastic job of that, but again, not a ton of time left. You know, both players trying to finish this game.
Yeah, AJ's in a tough spot because he only has 1 Plains in his deck, so he can't sack the Flooded Strand to get another Plains to play around Wasteland, but at the same time he's afraid of Stifle, so probably considering whether or not he wants to crack it now and just get a Tundra to play around Stifle, or do I want to play around Wasteland? You know, he already saw one Wasteland, so maybe playing around Stifle is a more reasonable option there, but
and you see Barrett
chump block.
You see Barrett main phase the Lightning Bolt to take care of the Spirit token, come across there. AJ's hand of Counterspell, Supreme Verdict, not willing to cast it. You're going to see a main phase Brainstorm here from Barrett as well, drawing him a Tarmogoyf, a Brainstorm, and a Flooded Strand. His draw step for the turn, Barrett's was a Sulfur Elemental. So he can also set AJ up with that here. And, you know, time is running down for these 2 players, but Barrett does have a clock on the board. He does have a well-stocked hand. He's going to sacrifice that Flooded Strand. He is moving at a pretty quick pace right now, so you can tell he thinks he does have a shot to win this one in time.
Yeah, I think AJ had the option of casting Accumulated Knowledge last turn and then deciding what land he wanted to play. Might have given him a little more information, because I don't think he's going to be, the Counterspell is going to be too effective that turn. You know, he's basically trying to play for a Supreme Verdict, I think, right now. But he did manage to draw a Misty Rainforest, so looks like he can play that, sack that to get an Underground Sea, and cast Supreme Verdict this turn, or flashback the Lingering Souls. Although I think he probably is just going to use all of his mana this turn and flashback cast a Supreme Verdict. Because next turn he'll be able to flashback Lingering Souls and have access to Counterspell mana.
So that's going to be a 1-for-1 trade there. Supreme Verdict going to take care of the Insectile Aberration. Barrett draws a Sylvan Library for the turn.
Generally a good card, but not when there's less than 1 minute left. He's going to be under a lot of pressure to try to close that. AJ's at 13, and AJ has another Supreme Verdict in his hand, so it's definitely going to be a tough position for Barrett.
Barrett just plays another Mongoose and says go. AJ draws an Island to go along with the Supreme Verdict and his Counterspell. Island he will play. We'll see if he's going to flash back the Lingering Souls or not. He decides he's not going to and does just pass the turn.
I think AJ's timing this out perfectly. I mean, he basically knows I don't need to cast Supreme Verdict there. I can take 3 and sort of buy myself some time. What he's not aware of, though, is a Sulfur Elemental. So he's actually going to be taking 3, cast Supreme Verdict, and then another 3 from Sulfur Elemental. And with the Lightning Bolt, you know, now we're going to be seeing, you know. Okay, so here's a Brainstorm. Now we're going to see, does the Sylvan Library actually come to play here? Because maybe he is going to be able to dig for a couple more Lightning Bolts or Fire and Ices. So I think Barrett might have gotten a little greedy there. I think ideally he might want to just pass a 3-mana up and have access to that Sulfur Elemental at the end of AJ's turn. Knowing there's a Lingering Souls in AJ's graveyard, you know, you have to start questioning, why didn't AJ flash it back? Does he have another Supreme Verdict? You know, I think the fact that AJ didn't flash back the Supreme Verdict, flash back the Lingering Souls last turn is kind of telegraphing a little bit what his hand is.
Sure.
So I think Barrett's ideal situation is just pass a 3-mana. Now we can cast he could have cast the Sulfur Elemental, drop, and then that would have dropped AJ to 7, and the Bolt would have dropped AJ to 4 on his turn. So, you know, he's within a little closer being in range of just getting burnt out. But
so we are in turn 2 of extra turns right now, as Barrett is going to cast a Tarmogoyf and pass the turn back, it looks like.
So AJ can plow this on his turn with Counterspell backup and make sure that it resolves. This is turn 3, I believe. Now?
Yeah, this will be turn 3 of extra turn. So Barrett's going to have one more turn to try to win this one. As you see, AJ thumbed through his graveyard, looked at the Lingering Souls, looks at his hand, sees a Counterspell and Accumulated Knowledge, and a Swords of Plowshares. Wants to figure out what to do to make sure he doesn't die this turn. You know, a draw here is not ideal, but it will leave both players in the tournament and still within top 8 contention. You're going to see a main face Swords Plowshares here, and see Barrett realizes there's nothing I can do about that. Gonna gain myself some life. We'll see if Barrett has anything that he wants to do on the end of AJ's turn, so long as AJ is all finished here. And he is going to flash back the Lingering Souls, and he does have access to either Counterspell or Accumulated Knowledge this on Barrett's end step. Barrett going to untap and draw here on turn 4.
Yeah, so it looks like he's not actually going to be able to do enough to kill AJ this game. Looks like it's going to end in a draw. Barrett did everything he could, and I think if he had more time, he probably plays maybe a little differently and could actually end up pulling this game because he does have a Sylvan library, so he's going to keep digging for more and more cards, whereas AJ is kind of backpedaling a little bit. But, you know, it happens when you play against a deck like AJ's. It's just like this grindy control deck that just takes up a lot of time, and, you know, we saw it sort of the round before with Greg Hatch, where he was playing this blue-white control deck that, you know, doesn't have a lot of ways to win, sort of a grindy control deck, and when you don't have that many threats, you know, the games just go very long, and you got to be very time conscious.
Sure. You see both players just showing the contents of their hand. Looks like we're going to see a draw here between the two players, but a good battle nonetheless between AJ Sacher and Barrett Koreger.
And both are now, I believe, at 4-0-1. So still a good chance for them to make top 8.
Yep.
A win next round, a win over the next 2 rounds will be a lock.
Okay.
Oh, did AJ concede?
Yeah, AJ decides to concede that match. So both those players were 3-1-1.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
So both were 3-1 rather.
Yeah.
So AJ decides to just drop to 4-2 rather than 3-2 rather than go to 3-1-1.
Yeah, what you saw there is both players just basically explaining, you know, show the contents of their hands, trying to figure out, you know, if we had more time, who may have won that game, because a draw might not